Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm from Ukraine, and I vlog daily to keep you updated on the real-life situation in my country, Ukraine. And today we have filmed one very important video in a beautiful gallery, painting gallery in the center of my city. And I have decided it will be a nice start to introduce you to the gallery and later to speak about the Ukrainian cultural heritage that was damaged or severely destroyed during this Russian war. These are beautiful works made by a renowned Ukrainian artist, Dyshko, and you can recognize my castle on them. They are very symbolic, and there are lots of details that I'm not even able to show you with the help of this video, because it may be pretty difficult, and it is the map of my city in the Middle Ages. There are so many interesting details that you have to come one day when it is safe to travel to Ukraine and discover his works in reality. I will show you the gallery, but most of the exhibits are taken away because now it is really dangerous to keep them in Ukraine. Anything can be destroyed because of Russian orcs. Let's look out of the window. The gallery is located in the old town, and lots of old houses, abandoned or with families, are here, and I like the curtains. I don't know, what do you think about that? There is going to be one cultural event there, so we will just peep. You see how many details. Our castle. Perhaps during some medieval war. And this is a hall for events. I think it is very important that cultural life in Ukraine continues and people pay attention to the presentation of books, various plays, films, and so on. And now, in a more calm atmosphere, I will tell you a little bit more about Ukrainian cultural heritage and the impact this war has on it. So now, in the calm atmosphere of my house, I want to explain you a little bit more how this war destroyed, damaged, and influenced the sphere of cultural heritage in Ukraine. And first of all, I have to stress that this war is very much about culture. I know there is a quote that some people claim was said, created by Churchill. Others said it was not him, but a dialogue or something. But anyway, we're not only fighting for resources, we're not only fighting for territories, we always fight for culture and protect it. And in case of war between Russia and Ukraine, this is an existential war. And money, natural resources, power, access, I don't know, to the sea and all of these things, they matter, but they are not the central in this war. The central thing is culture, cultural identity, independence and freedom, so much valued in Ukraine and protected in Ukraine, and hated and seen as a virus, as a danger to any type of Russian empire, starting from the Tsar times and finishing with modern Russia and also Soviet Union. So we have totally different directions in which we want to develop. And for 300 years or even more, we have constant wars with Russians who want to take us into the dark vision of the world, suppression, terror, strong hand, I don't know, concentration camps and all that stuff. Ukrainians are different. We are not afraid of freedom. We're not afraid of making choices and taking responsibilities, and our way is westward. So that's what we are fighting for, and culture and language stands in the center here, because Russian Empire is impossible without Ukraine, and Ukraine is happy without Russia. So I hope that we will manage not only to gain our independence and freedom forever, but also lead to the collapse of the Ruski Mir. Because this is a very toxic and very totalitarian and anti-human ideology. So on the very 1st of March, it seems to me, Russians targeted the Museum of Holocaust in Kyiv, Babyn Yar, and damaged a part of it. I think it is an attack not only on Ukrainian cultural heritage and memory, but also on the global, because we all know how important it is to never forget the crimes of Holocaust. Also, many museums were destroyed. And for example, the Museum of Grigory Skovoroda, and I had a separate video about this very famous in Ukraine philosopher. Also, the Mariupol theater, that is a concentration of orcs' evil and Ukrainian oppression and decision like not to give up. The theater where hundreds of people were hiding in its basements, and for example, in my city, the bomb shelters are also in some of the theaters because they have this long, deep basements, and people were bombed directly. They were bombing the theater, so committing so many crimes at once, like doubling, multiplying them. This is an object of the cultural heritage, and it's not a military target. They knew hundreds of people are inside. They knew that among these people are children. And now, in this very tragic city of Mariupol, that one day perhaps will be open for people, but only for people who have enough strength to see what happened there because of Russians. But now they want to rebuild the theater, and they don't care about the remains of people that are still in the shelters, that are still in the basements of the theater, which once again proves that human dignity is not important, and there is nothing like normal in the way this war is conducted from the Russian side. Also, many Ukrainian cultural activists were killed and executed because like they are Ukrainian and nothing else. Like it's a persecution based on your national identity, so it's a genocide. For example, they have captured directors of theaters, various people who run NGOs and so on. But also one of the news that like made me feel very emotional was a story of the Ukrainian children's writer. He had a complicated biography and a son with autism, and he stayed in his small town that was occupied by Russian orcs at the beginning of this war, and many people, many writers of Ukraine hoped that he survived, but his body was identified in a grave with a number, which is already very sad, but he kept his diary. And when he realized that he is in danger, he hid that diary under the tree, and his father, who had previously a stroke, an old man, gave that a diary, and now we can read parts of the texts in Ukrainian media and see the strength of that person who forever believed in the Ukrainian armed forces and God. And he was just a Ukrainian writer of children's books. And he was brave enough to ask his countrymen, people in his village, in his town, to speak Ukrainian, or just he spoke Ukrainian when asked in Russian by soldiers. And these are his crimes. And it is so very sad that many of such stories will never be known. There are many unknown graves in Ukraine, and it's tragic because behind or below each of these graves there is a story of a person, and each story is worth a separate book perhaps. And it's so unjust that they were killed only because they're Ukrainians, only because Putin wants to revive that dark empire. And what for? To share darkness and poverty? So many cultural objects, including churches, were bombed. They knew people are there, but they continued bombing them. There are some other cultural heritage objects that I'm very much worried, even in my town and in Kyiv, and I'm not going to name them, I don't know, from the security purposes. I'm not thinking like I'm superstar and much people like in Russia who else will watch me, but I'm not even going to name these objects, like to not to feel that I did something wrong. And what is also interesting, many of our exhibits from our museums, they are in Europe now, and you keep them safe just as you keep Ukrainian people, and we're very grateful for that. And it reminds me of this very serious operation that took place during the Second World War, when many of European masterpieces were hidden. And there is a film, it seems to me, with George Clooney and other celebrities describing this operation of saving works from European museums, not to let Nazis steal and destroy them. Russian orcs do not understand what they are doing. They have visited a couple of, when Kyiv and nearby towns were occupied by Russian orcs, they have also got inside of some popular singers, popular people, apartments and flats. They did not realize that, and one of our singers shared his story like that they stole a microwave, sneakers, whatever they like to loot in Ukrainian houses, and left one of the paintings that was like $500,000 or something, because like, well, these are orcs, what can you expect from them? In Ukraine there are objects of UNESCO heritage. There are many interesting buildings, castles, palaces, churches that can tell you a lot. And I hope they will survive the war. And there are lots of useful cultural initiatives that appear. Digitization is very popular now. Almost any like young Ukrainian has a 3D scanner so that you can scan your church in the village and keep it. Maybe everything will be fine, but in case of destruction, it can be reconstructed according to a very nice 3D model. That's why I think that in future, Ukraine will be an interesting land for various also digital and cultural experiments. And I hope that you understand how important it is to preserve your own cultures, to protect them. In the normal world, you don't need to do that. The only thing you need is just to describe, to speak, to show it to the world. But in Ukraine, now we realize how important language, how important culture is. And we are waiting for the time when it is safe to invite you and to show you the things that were hidden behind the Iron Curtain, that were somehow invisible for these 3 decades of our independence. But now this war made us famous. It is not the way we wanted, but let's try and use it as an opportunity too. Maybe that's not the most interesting vlog, but I felt like I need to speak about this cultural heritage, and let me know what are the things, the objects that you would like to know more in our Ukrainian culture, because I feel like I love talking about that. Thank you for buying me coffees. Thank you for becoming my patrons and sponsoring our Soviet Myths Debunked series. And I have already downloaded a video, and the premiere will be on Sunday. Also, I have this idea to try our live chat tomorrow at 10 p.m. Ukrainian time, and I will write you a notification. But also I'm really worried that we might have power outages, and in many cases these are not predictable. So if I won't be able to show up, please forgive me, and still let me know, would you be available for that question and answer session tomorrow. Slava Ukraini!